I don't know if you've seen this video yet, but it's freaking crazy. It was posted just 2 months ago and has already gathered more than 11 million views, making it one of Airrack's most successful uploads. He does have quite a few videos that have a higher view count, but it's taken those videos almost a year to reach that number. So the success of this video is kinda insane. That for sure is in part because of the thumbnail. There are two easily recognizable characters holding fresh organs that give anyone the ick factor. It's enticing and therefore highly clickable. So today I'm going to recreate it. I've already gathered the assets that I need for this project, which are a picture of the Liver King, some dude who can pose as Airrack, the internal organs, and the grass and sky background. So let's begin. I'll start by opening this picture of the Liver King. Found this off of Google, and it's the same exact picture Airrack used for his thumbnail. First thing I'll do is use this pen tool to crop him and the liver out of the background. I'm trying to get it sufficiently close, but we don't have to be super precise with all the tiny details, since thumbnails are just going to be 2-inch displays once they're uploaded on YouTube. I'm done. Let me isolate that. And make it into a new layer and remove this little green part over here. There we go. Let me clean up this little beard a little bit, and that's better. So now I'll move it here and resize it like so. And the next step is to really make the colors pop. So I'll select this camera raw filter option and I'll play around with these values. That looks pretty good for now. So let's move on to the background. I found the stock image that's kind of close to the grass and the sky on Airrack's thumbnail. Let me just position that properly. That's pretty good, so I'll go ahead and move that layer to the back and also resize and reposition the Liver King a little bit. I think that's better. So the next step is to recreate Airrack himself. I'll start by using this stock photo that I found of a guy holding out his hand. It's not an exact replica of Airrack's pose, but it'll do for the purposes of this tutorial. Anyways, as you can see, I'm using the quick selection tool to quickly isolate the guy from the background. Now I'll just have to fix these parts. That'll do. So we'll bring that over to our working canvas. That's okay for now. With the lasso tool, here's what I'm going to do next. I'll cut out his arms so I can reposition it and bring it closer to the screen later on. And then I'll make the dude bigger, like so. I also want to clean up the edges a little bit, so I'll use the eraser for that. Now I'll bring back the hand, put that over here, and merge the guy and his hand into one layer. This way, when I do color correction, both of them will match, and I only have to do it once. So I'll go and color correct right now. The idea is to make him a lot less orange and a little closer to look and texture to the other guy. That looks better, yep. So let's go back to the background and also color correct that so it's a little more muted like on Airrack's thumbnail. That's somewhat better. Now I'll add a bit of glow for our Airrack stand-in just so he pops out more against the background. As you can see, I'm going for this orangey color because it's not only making him pop, but it does so in a way that isn't too unnatural and instead just blends with the background like sunlight. That looks pretty good. I'm going to do the same thing for the Liver King and give him that sun-kissed glow. Actually looks really nice. I'm just going to adjust his skin tone a little bit more because he's too purplish. That's better, let's move on. Now it's time for the other internal organs. For this part, I'm actually just going to use a rotisserie chicken. As you can see, my goal here isn't to create an exact replica of the Airrack thumbnail, but to show you the techniques on how that thumbnail was designed. I'm just using the quick selection tool here to pluck the chicken out of the background, pun intended. Now I'm going to resize it so it sits perfectly on the guy's hand. That looks good. I'll just lower the opacity for now, so I can cut out these parts here so that they're covering the fingers since we want it to look like he's actually holding the chicken. I'm using a soft-edged brush so it looks more natural and blended instead of having rough, clean edge cuts. Now let's see how that looks. Just need some minor adjustments here. I'm actually going to use the clone stamp tool to fix his ring finger. Next I'll go back with the brush and this time add some shadows where his hand is touching the meat. I'm just doubling back to really define the shadow and I'll adjust the saturation and lightness like so. Next I'll polish the edges. That's so much better. Now let's go do some color correction on the chicken. I'll make it look brighter and juicier. And then I'm gonna go do the same thing with the two guys and add that orangey glow so it looks like everything's getting hit with a ray of sunlight from behind. I'm only applying that glow to the top part since the sunlight is coming from above. I'm going to do the opposite for the bottom part here to create some shadow. You can see me here comparing the before and afters from applying the glow and the shadow. I'll just make some minor adjustments to blend things better. I'm going to go back to the fingers here because the edges have become too blurry. So I'll use a soft brush to remove some of the shadow and fill it back in with the skin. That's a lot better. Things are looking pretty good so far, but I want to go back and do a little more color correcting with this guy. He's still too orangey compared to the other dude. That's more like it. Next, I'm going to create a new layer and use a brush so I can add a little more glow around him to make him more realistic. I'm just tracing the outlines of his shirt here where I think the sunlight would hit, and I'll also do this part. Then I'll desaturate it and play around with the lightness a bit, and then I'll lower the opacity to about 55%. And I'm going to go ahead with the eraser to blend it all together. That's looking pretty nice. This is a great output, and if you're following this recreation, you could totally stop here. I did want to play around with it a bit more, so I added some smoke and made the color of the entire thing a tad brighter, which resulted into this final product. If you want to follow along, you can watch the full unedited tutorial by clicking the link in the description. Otherwise, there we have it. Watch this next video if you want to watch another Airrack thumbnail reaction.